everyone, and welcome to Telling Stories. I'm Kevin Praik, joined by Mitch Kiliulis, the marketing director of the Norfolk Mallards under the Union Hockey League. Mitch, how you doing today?
Not bad. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking. I see you're sporting a Mallards jersey. Those pretty nice looking.
Absolutely, yeah. So we got our jerseys just in time for the our first home game, which was on Saturday, January 20th. Guys were pretty pumped, and we're looking to get. We already got them, but the away jerseys are inbound. So we had an away game this past weekend. We wore the home greens, and Hudson Valley wore their whites, but we're planning on getting our away jerseys, the white jerseys, soon.
Well, I'm sure that you're already halfway there, and they're already coming in. And it's certainly going to be, if it's anything like that one, I'm sure it's going to look nice.
Yeah, really clean.
So the Norfolk Mallards, as I mentioned, are part of the Union Hockey League. And now the Union Hockey League is a senior A semi-pro hockey league. Now, for those that may not know, can you kind of explain what a senior A semi-pro hockey league really is?
Yeah, so we use the semi-pro word because because for that same reason, it's kind of the best way to describe this for people outside of the hockey world. And of course, we want to promote this product uh, pretty much to the people outside the hockey world. We don't kind of want some of our own who kind of know what's going on. We want new fans and to grow the game. But Senior A, to explain, in the hockey world, there are a bunch of tiers, all the way from when you first start to skate when you're like 4 years old, right? And as we move up to the ranks and then through high school, there is a rank right in between high school and college called junior hockey. Junior hockey has their own little tiers in between it, but to summarize, junior hockey in America and Canada are the goal pretty much is to get these 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds the cutoff, into these junior programs and just focus on hockey. A lot of them have housing provided and kind of a quote unquote tuition, where they just focus on hockey for the year in hopes to be scouted by a college team. So that's junior hockey, and then the hope, the I guess the ideal, right, is you go to junior hockey, you do your thing, you're scouted by NCAA, you move to NCAA, the college hockey, and then you graduate, and then hopefully you move up the ranks to pro if that's what you want to do. It goes without saying with any sport, that's hard, easier said than done, right? So a lot of these guys who don't kind of make their pro dreams happen are kind of stuck, right? They look over their shoulder and they see these rec leagues, recreational leagues, and Senior A is kind of another option for them to uh, still play competitive hockey that isn't with people their age and their skill level that isn't in that rec league, right? So it's, I guess you would say, it's the step in terms of skill or in terms of where you're at in your hockey career. It's the step below, right before those lower level pro leagues. And senior hockey is pretty popular, especially in Canada, because there's, obviously there's so many hockey players in Canada and only so many can make it into those pro leagues, including the NHL. So senior hockey, so since there's just so many of them, so many of them left over, senior hockey is gigantic in Canada, and that's where you have the ABC or double A, triple A. Those are kind of tiers of senior hockey. Whereas in the States, it's less popular, so we adopted the Senior A name, and all that being said, senior hockey is growing, and that's kind of the goal of this league, of the Union Hockey League, to kind of ensure fans or non-fans, like, hey, you can see some quality competitive hockey without going to trying to hunt down the nearest pro team because there's only so many of those. Um, so that's kind of what we're doing here, and I think it's been a success so far.
Yeah, and then you mentioned one of the goals of the UHL and the Canton Mallards in general is to make the game more accessible for everybody. Like you said, not everybody can go to a pro game or scout those out. How is the Union Hockey League and the Canton Mallards making hockey accessible to a large base of people?
Yeah, so it really what it is just promoting that idea of kind of just a family fun night. There are so many towns in our league that you look at the town where they're actually playing, and you say that's not, when you go to the NFL or the NHL or wherever, you're like that's not usually where teams play, and that's the point, right? So we're the Norfolk Mallards, and we represent Norfolk County of Massachusetts. So we play out of Randolph, but we try to those are suburbs of Boston, and a lot of people can't either make it into the city or just can't afford to go to Bruins games. And then you go down to Providence, and that's still the same thing, right? Providence is still a pro hockey team. Their prices are cheaper, right? But it's still kind of at that pro level. You're in a stadium. We're trying to bring that kind of pro stadium atmosphere to our rinks, right? To our local rinks. So we're in Randolph. The Boston team has the name. They play out of Watertown, so it's the same thing. Local rink, just very standard setup, but try to bring that exciting, fast-paced action straight to Watertown or straight to Randolph.
Absolutely. Now, the Mallards are out of the Sapontas Ice Arena in Randolph on 240 North Street. For fans coming to home games, what can fans expect in this inaugural season from the Canton Mallards?
The Norfolk Mallards, to be
Morford
exact.
Mallards.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Last time we
no,
did
it's all right.
this,
No, it's all right.
the former Canton Mallards, the now Norfolk Mallards. My
Yeah,
apologies.
with the name change was more so. I guess I'll talk a little bit about that. Originally we were, I guess, strictly based out of Canton, but then we ended up moving rinks to Zapatas, and I it wasn't that just because it's down the road from Canton, but we didn't want to. Now that we played in Randolph, now we're including Randolph, and then we're like, well, let's make this kind of this county's team instead of just one. So that's kind of why we had the name change. Um, yeah. So in terms of home games, so we've had one so far, and what we did was had we had Pliables of Canton uh, bring a bunch of samples, and they kind of set up a table, set up shop, and they were popular. I said to them because it's hard whenever it doesn't matter what it is, whatever live event you're planning, right? When the caterer or whoever is providing food asks how many people, um, you never know. You never know. So I was afraid. I gave them a little on the high side, and it turns out like my estimate was too high. So when they came, I was like, oh my gosh, like they're gonna have so much left over. They're gonna hate me or whatever, or something like that. Just like wheels turning. But it didn't turn out that way. It's like people came back for seconds and thirds and fourths, and and it was great, and it was funny because right off the ice, some of our players came up just in their full gear, and they started munching on some samples. So I said, I'm like, I would tell you to pack up. The game's over, all the fans are leaving, but like maybe stick around next year because after I had that conversation, I swear, like one guy came from the locker room and he came back with his little cup into the locker room. And then everyone's like, well, where'd you get that? And then they all came out in their skates, like not even like changed at all. They were still like in like sweaty and all that stuff. And but it was good. So it's sort of that atmosphere. One thing I've learned organizing these games is there was a time early in January when we're getting ready, and I said, and there was a time where I was kind of thinking really big, and then when the first game happened, um, and there were some, there were some technical difficulties. The estimate was less than I thought, like that sort of thing. And I said, well, you know, this is the start of a new thing, right? So, and just the simplest thing, a 50-50 raffle and like free acai bowl samples, just this two simple things were a giant hit, So I've started to kind of say, like, I want to market this as like a very homey small town, especially, we're not in Boston, we're in Randolph, right? We're in Norfolk County, right? It's the suburbs. Just bring your family, bring your friends, and just have a good time, almost like a farmer's market with hockey, right? That's the sort of thing I'm looking forward. I figured out the technical difficulties. We'll have more music. It'll be good.
Seems like it was a successful first attempt right there.
Yes, absolutely. Learned a lot.
So the Norfolk Mallards have a full roster. How did you get the players to fill out this roster?
Oh my lord. It was hard. Not of the This is not anything of the players' fault, but no matter what, I really want to appeal to the to the masses on this statement. Whether it be a business or a startup business, whether it be, another sports team or just a club at your school, right? Finding that first year is always tricky because no one knows who you are, right? And that's why I'm so grateful for you to take the time out of your day to cover this, and because you're starting from scratch, right? You're starting from scratch. No one knows who you are. Not only a new team, new league, right? So it's not even like you could point out, oh, hey, remember like this league they did this last year. No, everyone's brand new. Everyone's starting there. So the first practice was in late October. I had just called up my family friend Rick LeBlanc. He has golfed with my dad for like over a decade. A really good friend. He was a hockey coach at Halston High for years, and he was a player in Canada for a little bit in a league like this. And so we get to the first ever practice, trying to advertise it like crazy. And four people showed up, and three of them were goalies. So so we were saying, I don't even know how to run the practice. We just had the skater shoot the puck. That skater, by the way, Hayden Kearney, ended up he's the original. He's sticking it out with us, and he's here till this day. In his first two games with the Mallards, he's scored 3 goals. So he was been a fantastic guy. But and then after that, right, it was all word of mouth from the players. I realized you could advertise as much as you want, but until players come to practices and then tell their friends, hey, this is legit, this is X, Y, and Z, that was the real spread. So it spread like wildfire from there. We had, if you look at like your roster, right, when you walk in, we print out these a roster and where they're from and their former team. There are chunks of people where the former team's the same. That's because they played together. And one guy came to our practice, said, hey, this is cool, and then they brought the other guy, then brought the other guy, right? So there are chunks of just solid like UMass Dartmouth, and then like chunks of like Quincy College. So and chunks of South Shore Kings, right? Those are probably the big three. But at that point it was all just word of mouth, and then we figured it out from there. And it was kind of like, all right, this is who we got. Like, let's make it work.
So now you're a part of the Union Hockey League. Your season has officially begun. You've mentioned there was a lot of planning that went into getting this team off the ground. Now, as of this recording, you're 2 games in, and congratulations on your first win. What does it feel like now that this thing that you've been planning for so long is actually, pardon the pun, but taking flight?
Yeah. I think it's still it's very strange because I thought kind of like what you're suggesting, once it, starts up, right, things will settle down. And I think I won't count this as starting up until late February because, as I mentioned, that first home game, it was a great success and it was awesome for all the people who came out. Um, but there were just some little things where it's like, well, I've never done this before, so um, I didn't realize I needed to like do this and this and this. Um, yeah, we had some music issues and like some technical issues on that front. So it's now like, okay, I'm clocking that as like that's a possible issue. I didn't know that before. In the broadcast, right? We ended up improvising. We did a radio broadcast because our camera wasn't connecting to the computer. Again, didn't thought I had tested everything out. Realized I didn't. Right. So but that's okay. Right. That's
Yeah.
okay. It's there are plenty of teams, not by no means calling any of them out, but in the whole league, they they've had those issues, right? And they've adjusted. So we're kind of one of the newest teams. So we had a shorter amount of time to prepare for that. Some teams have had longer, so they have everything figured out. So you can just gotta take it like that. And I think hopefully the fans will grow with us, and it'll be like the fans who came to that first game will be like Hayden, right? We'll have this many fans here, and then in the last game, they'll still be there, and they're the originals, and they'll see how far it's come.
Absolutely. Now, Trillium Brewing is one of the main sponsors of the Norfolk Mallards. What does that sponsorship mean to you as the marketing director and to the team at large?
Yeah, it's great. What it really is uh, hats off to Trillium for being in the position they're in and taking a chance to put their name on something like this, right? It really kind of, I don't know if I don't know in the beer world or whatever, if there are any rumors or whatever, probably not. But if there were any rumors of Trillium being like, oh, now it's this, big corporation, and it's turned into something bigger, not just this small craft brewery, just because they have eight, 6 locations. Um, if there ever was that, this shuts it down immediately because just the very fact that they took a chance on something this new and something this unknown is that means a lot to us. And I think that's really what at the core of this sponsorship and this partnership that we have with them. Just the fact that they're supporting something local and they're giving us their recognition. It means the whole world. So we're grateful for that, and we've been checking in with Trillium on every post we're making, and we're saying like, is this okay? And they're great to work with. So it's been good, and we're probably planning on our schedule is a bit tough in terms of heading to the bar after the game, but we're planning some sort of team congregation or some fundraiser in the future.
Now, every team in the UHL has a president, a general manager, and a marketing director, of course, along with a head coach. So, can you talk about who fills those roles for the Norfolk Mallards?
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of combined uh, the general manager and the coach position. Rick LeBlanc is both of those things. He has a really good relationship with the owner of Zapasos Arena, and he kind of handles all our schedule and booking of the ice. Um, and then John Agolia is our president, who um, is kind of really just the overseer of things, making sure um, whatever Rick and I need that is kind of like out of our like either comfort zone or out of our reach. He could take care of that, and then I've been the marketing director. Um, but in those first couple months, those roles didn't really matter. It was all just trying to get guys on the ice, and every single one of them, including me, did that. And I think now, kind of going back to your earlier question, I think now one thing that has settled is those roles, right? Where I'm handling marketing and game day operations. Rick is handling scheduling, coaching, and then John saying, what do you need? Like, what else do you need, right? That you can't take care of yourself.
Yeah. Now you've been a lifelong hockey fan. What keeps your love of the game going through this very long process?
Yeah, I think it's like right now, at least, I think it's learning more about the game. I never played, and I've just always been a fan. My dad had season tickets to the Bruins growing up, so I always went to a bunch of games, and I think maybe it was that made hockey stand out as my like spectator sport of choice. Um, but it probably was that. But I think um, from there, right, being a spectator, and something being your spectator sport of choice, not you view it as a spectator. Now, I think now that I'm so far into this, now I'm learning just more just about the gameplay in general, just simply because I'm watching practices and watching so many games. Um, and I think that that combined with my earlier interest in watching these games kind of merged and kind of made me an even bigger hockey fan. Um, I'm definitely watching more hockey than I ever have, including this league. I do play-by-play broadcasting for the Eastern Hockey League, a junior league. So I'm doing that, and then I come home and I'm either watching the Bruins or PWHL. So I think that's what it is. Just learning more about the game and noticing more things now that I have that inside scoop.
Yeah, and speaking of the inside scoop, who were some of the players from the Norfolk Mallards that people should keep an eye on for this season?
Yeah, definitely. So we have our captain staff, right? We have a captain and two assistants. We have Kevin Messam as an assistant captain, and JB O'Donnell, the assistant captain. Two great leaders. JB has kind of been one of our um, kind of points of contact, like a player representative. So he's been really helpful for like the quote unquote front office, as well as scoring a tying goal for that first game in the third period. He just kept batting at it and he got it in and got the boys pumped. We ended up losing that game 4-3 in overtime. Uh, but and then the captain Brad McGovern, he's netted thus far, two goals in these past two games, and he's just the cool-headed captain that you want on the ice. He's the definition of a captain. He keeps his calm, leads his team, leads his line, and he's been great, especially for points. And then I mentioned earlier Hayden Kearney, now with 3 goals on the season, leading the Norfolk Mallards on offense. So he's been great. He's the original, and he's fast. He's faster than I think a lot of the guys on the other team. So definitely that kind of squad has been extremely helpful. And then of course in net, Parker Butler. Parker Butler started the last 2 games. He's a former member of the Danbury Hat-Tricks, who are the FPHL team in Danbury, and he packed up and came over to us, and he's just been an absolute stud in that. we in that first game we went down 3-1 in the first, so he had a tough go in the first, and then he was just rock solid the rest of the game. Gave up a couple more, obviously, because we ended up losing that game in overtime. But he there were shots in that first period that he took that he went by him in the first period, but then in the second and third he was solid. So definitely that squad, kind of our main guys. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, one of the last questions I have for you is that the UHL does allow fighting, although it is a 5-minute major. Can you explain a little bit more about what the league is doing with fighting in a semi-pro hockey league?
Yeah. So I think I always tell people outside of, I guess, the hockey sphere, fighting in hockey is a very strange thing because it seems, in every other sport, it seems frowned upon, but then hockey, it's not, as you see on TV and movies all the time. And then hockey players get this reputation of having hockey temper and just being mad and ready to fight everyone all the time. Uh, I think what people don't realize is fighting is just part of the sport, uh, and it's part of the sport because you the whole point of hockey is you're on this very foreign surface, right? Like it's not a field, it's not grass, not hardwood, it's ice, right? So it's um, this foreign land that you're on, and it's almost like a battle arena. And then when you step on that ice, anything goes, and it's a war. And when you're in war, if something goes wrong, you're going to step up for your teammate, and that's at the core of fighting in hockey, right? If you watch not high fighting hockey fighting highlights, but the whole, I guess, scene of what leads up before the fight, it's always, hey, you've been bothering me all game, or hey, you've been towing the line a little bit, or hey, you've been messing with my teammate. Like, let's fight. So I think the Union Hockey League is trying to uh, kind of push that this is uh, true hockey to its core, because it is at its core part of the sport. Fighting is.
Yeah, and another question for you is that if you had to choose a cartoon character to be your best friend, who would you choose?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think a lot of people are probably going to go wacky answers on this, just like silly. I'm going who's going to be a genuine friend, like you know what I mean. Who's like who I can like actually hang out with, and he'll give me good advice. So, I think Gerald from Hey Arnold is a solid pick. He seems like a good friend. He doesn't seem too like he's very level headed. I'm fine with that. That's cool. Or Arnold for that matter. I don't know. But not anyone else from that show. But just those two maybe would be a good hang.
So the Norfolk Mallards are a member of the Union Hockey League, and that is in the Eastern Division. The home rink for them is the Zapontis Arena at 240 North Street in Randolph, Massachusetts. Mitch, where can people get tickets? Where can they find the broadcast? Things like that. Where can they social media?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of the ticket links will be on our social media. It's Norfolk Mallards. Search it on Instagram and Facebook. Facebook is Norfolk Mallards Hockey Club. And you'll find links to tickets there, but then you can go directly to the ticket website. We're doing it through Eventbrite. Just search our name. We have a profile there, and it shows everything we got. And be sure to subscribe to our weekly newsletter. It's norfolkmallards.substack.com. I do a weekly newsletter not only to cover just team news, but also league news. I do these past couple weeks since the season started. I do game recaps of all the games that happened. Actually write it up right after this for this next week, and yeah, just to stay informed and for all Mallards news and all league news. It's a great way to learn what's happening.
So that you got the Instagram, you got the Facebook, you got the ticket link there, you got everything covered.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere where people, I know you said that you had problems, but is there anywhere that people could possibly live stream the games?
Yep, absolutely. So all home games will be live streamed at Norfolk Mallards on YouTube, Norfolk Mallards Hockey Club on YouTube. We have a great broadcast team. We have Trent Wilkinson and Kobe Smith. Kobe Smith was solo this past home game, and he did a great job. Trent Wilkinson's going to be solo for the Saturday game, but on Sunday, I think they're going to both be together. And in terms of away games, everyone has their own way of streaming every team. So those updates will be on our social and on our newsletter, just announcing where you can see those home games.
There you go. And of course, I'm Kevin Praik. This has been Telling Stories. You can subscribe to the Signature Voice Production YouTube channel where all of the Telling Stories long form interviews and the short clips are posted. You can follow me on X, which is @Praik Journalist. That's Praik Journalist. And then you can follow or like. You can do both on the Signature Voice Production Facebook page and keep up the great work. Again, this is Telling Stories. I'm Kevin Praik. That is the marketing director of the Norfolk Mallards, Mitch Kiliulis. Mitch, thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thanks for having me.